I'm just a lazy video gamer, even too lazy to make a new intro. Hello out there in Videoland, it's me again, the lazy video gamer, and today, as you maybe can guess, I have another Wrestlepalooza episode for you. Not on WWF games, but some other games, wrestling games from the 16-bit eras for the Sega Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo. Of course, I know there are a lot of games out there in every region, especially in Japan, but I just wanna show you, let me say, a smaller number of games that I'm gonna show to you today. So sit back, grab your coffee, your tea, your popcorn, or your big foam fingers and get excited for another Wrestlepalooza. For the first entry, FCI and Beam Software brings us WCW Super Brawl. It comes, of course, with 1 and 2 player mode and also some options like the match length or the pinfalls that you're gonna fight in. It has a nice presentation if you look at the still images of on the side. You can fight between single and tournaments, of course one-on-one or tag team.
Show me respect.
Yeah, but now comes what I think it's a little bit funky. You have this moving pictures and here are some catchphrases from the wrestlers, but not from those you highlighted. They are just dropping in and you don't have any names. So if you don't know the wrestler, you have no idea who they are. Of course, Ric Flair and Big Van Vader, the Steiner brothers, or Ron Smith are famous characters. Even this little funky moving wrestler in the left middle I know from back in the day, but I didn't remember the name here. Also, then came, after you selected it, came in the name, and as you saw, I took a wrestling legend, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and I tried to beat the poo out of my opponent, what sometimes works and sometimes not that great. Of course, you have a limited roster of moves and also, in my opinion, not so smooth animations. Yeah. Why I picked this at number 1 on my list? You maybe know the WCW. It was called back in the day and still today as a cheap version of the WWF, and that is nothing other with this game. This is Fire Pro Wrestling number 10, and it was released in Japan, whereas if you go into the match, of course, many variations you can choose from. All text are in Japanese only, so it is a little bit an issue or a little problem to find what you want to do. But when you knew what you want to do, you get some serious wrestling. Yeah, I mentioned it, and you see it maybe here now. This is the original, or those were the originals, and WCW was once again only a rip-off of another thing that already existed. So the main core of the game, of course, it's wrestling and it's all the same. So this almost unspeakable name, Wrestling War and Romance, is of course once again a game from Japan, and it's an optical blast. You have this free simultaneous screen with you, your opponent, and of course the action in the middle. It's very technical and reminds me to Tecmo's World Championship Wrestling. If you master the controls, you have a great time with it. Now, Super Wrestling Angel. This is not what you expect from a wrestling game, because in fact it's a card battle. And if you listen close to this music, I'm not quite sure, do I pass through the YouTube guidelines, because this music reminds me very hard to a 70s or 80s pop group named Genghis Khan, with exact this title of their song. It's so close, so I shut up for a while that you cannot listen to it. And if you live in Europe and not the youngest one, maybe you remember it. When it comes to the actual game, it looks pretty. But with this, stepping stone in the way of the language barrier, it's almost impossible to win a match. Now, a real female wrestling game. Stardust Suplex brings some variations of fighting modes and a big and nice roster, but don't let you fool you. First, it's a tag team wrestling game, but it is hard. Zen Nihon Pro Wrestling brings not only a cool presentation, it brings also hard matches with it. So, the last entry on the Super Nintendo and simultaneously the first on the Mega Drive makes this little fellow from Capcom. Saturday Night Slam Masters. I have it on the Super Nintendo and not on the Mega Drive, which I think is really sad, cause the Mega Drive had, or still has, those cool plastic boxes and games look after many years, if you take care of it, still like new. And on the Super Nintendo, yeah, cardboard boxes, you know that. But now to the game. The reason why this game doesn't really feel like a wrestling game is simple. It was released first in the arcade, so this is a fighting game with the looks of a wrestling game. But that doesn't make a minus, or gives a minus point to it. The presentation is awesome, the sound is cool, the characters are crazy enough, and yeah, a recommendation if you wanna fight. Also, with roots in the arcade, Wrestle War from Sega. On the Mega Drive, you have a very boring looking cover in the European version, but the Japanese version looks awesome. It was one of those typical games. They didn't have the licenses for the names, the characters, so they changed a little bit here and there, and out of Hulk Hogan was Titan Morgan. Also a character whose strange look, whose looks like Animal from the Legion of Doom is in it. But the changes weren't not only on the cover. Also, your fighter, the underdog, had dark hairs. In the arcade, he was blonde, but that doesn't give a minus point. It had some strange controls to start with, but it comes very close to this brawl games like later LJN games. Know what I mean? I had nowadays, or having nowadays, even the better time than back in the days when I bought it. Now, Thunder Pro Wrestling is nothing other than Fire Pro Wrestling from the Super Nintendo. It comes from the same company, and of course a different year, a different wrestler, but in the core it's the same game. Of course, also a female wrestling game had to be mentioned in this Wrestlepalooza, and It's Cutie Suzuki's Ringside Angel. It was released only in Japan and is nowadays as an original complete in box amazingly overpriced. I bought it as reproduction and I had a good time with it. The language barrier is here, but with a little bit of training you can get over that and have a great time. So that was it for this week's episode of the Lazy Video Gamer Show. I hope you enjoyed it. I just want to mention, maybe you don't have one of those cool copies from the Japanese version of Wrestle War at home. You have maybe the European version, but I talked about that. It is in the past, it is in fact the same game, it's only the cover artwork is a little bit different. Yeah. Or you are not in the mood for 16-bit wrestling, but in wrestling of all days. One of my personal favorites, and I still it even today, and you can find it dirt cheap. I also made a video about it. Legends of WrestleMania is an awesome game. Or you want to play on your modern console. I'm still a fan of Retro Mania Wrestling, who is actually not only a spiritual successor, it's handled as official successor to WWF WrestleFest. It's an awesome, cool game, and with the new update it expands, of course, the numbers of characters who are on it, and it makes a lot of fun. But yeah, I wish you a fantastic rest of Sunday, a fantastic and great week, and don't forget, the game is never over.